Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I guess it's good afternoon. I'm trying to do a video a day, at least Monday through Friday. I don't think I'm going to do it on the weekend because it's too much work thinking through all of it. But I did want to do it today as my, let's see, I think this is 103 videos. It's probably more than that. I started thinking about it. I'm like, you should probably say, you know how like when you get new checks and you start them at a larger number so people think you've had the account longer? That's why I started thinking maybe I should have started at like 501. But anyway, here I am. Here I am. And so what I'm working on right now is foundation work. So moving forward with Dr. Mom, foundation work, because for me, in order to move forward in your life, you need three principles: a strong foundation, you need to set goals, and you need to constantly be working on yourself. Professional development, I call it professional, I guess you could say self-development. And then there's tiers to those. In each of those principles, I feel like you have to work on your spirituality, strong family values, and then, well, I think I said self-development. Self-development was the professional development piece. So today I thought about it, yesterday. I had a hard time making the video yesterday. I don't know why. Sometimes I can do really well at talking, like I did my update today on my bodybuilding. It was super easy. But sometimes I have a hard time deciding what to talk about. So I started thinking about, why are you doing this in the first place? And it's because I care about other people. And I've lived through my life and went through a lot of things to get where I'm at today, where I have a pretty solid foundation and goal setting and self-development, self-actualization. I'm in a good place. And it's because of all the things that I learned over my lifetime, that I'm at a good place today. And especially, I find when you really when you go through hard things, when you go through really hard things, or really, really hard things that are life changers, that change your life forever, you learn a lot, but I also had to really grow in spirituality and foundation work during that time, the time that I went through the loss of my husband. I, part of me wishes that I would have worked harder, but I have to say we were working pretty hard at it at the time. Sometimes it's just tough to get through certain things. So, but I kept thinking about it, and I'm like, well, why? Think about why it is so important to me to have a strong foundation. And it takes me back to when I was a teenager, basically. I don't remember how long before that, but I think I was about 9 when I started questioning. We didn't grow up as Christians, so I didn't understand Christianity. We didn't have, my parents were good people. They were very, very hard workers. They provided for us in every way imaginable. I had a great childhood. And they loved us. We knew that, but I didn't have any kind of Christianity. And I feel like children, adults, whoever, at every point and it actually says this in the Bible, that all people, God reveals himself to all people, even people in third world countries that don't have ways to see, how do we see online things, videos, reading, things like that. But I really think, I don't know, just my experience, there was a time in my life that I questioned life and death. For me, it was about 9 years old that I remember. And I think it was because my dad I hadn't been subjected to much death at that point in my life, or sickness or anything. We were all pretty healthy. Well, I shouldn't say that. I did go through a lot as a kid, and I wondered if that kind of influenced me in ways. I think it did later on. Like I had a lot of things that I got really sick with as a younger kid. I fell a lot. I fell out of a moving car on my head. I got my head knocked, got my head hit with a baseball bat. I had blood poisoning. I had this and that and all kinds of things like that. So in a way, maybe that started me on this path of thinking about life and death. I'm not sure, but I would just about imagine if you're a human being, you're going to think about that. And I remember asking my dad, I don't know if there was a point in our lives that my dad's cousin developed leukemia, and I wonder if that wasn't what set it off. But I did ask my dad, I said, what happens when you die? I mean, I believe that a lot of kids ask that. I'm not sure. When my kids were little, we just, I became a Christian, and so I took them to church all the time. So I don't remember them asking me that, but I did. So I asked my dad, and my dad evidently didn't have any belief in Christianity, because he told me that you just go into a dark hole. Well, I'm like, okay. As parents, we don't always know what to say, the right things to say, and that's okay. It formed my life. And so, that was always in the back of my head. There was always this fear in the back of my head about life and death and what happens after death, right? I think that's normal. And so I went on, I don't know, I got busy, I did a lot of sports. And I didn't really think about it much until I was, oh my goodness, I think I was off and on, I would think about it, but I think I must have been in 10th grade, and I didn't think too much about it, but I always had this, I started getting migraines. I think looking back on it, I'm pretty sure I was going through puberty. Like it's always somehow been connected to my hormones. And knowing what I know today, I'm thinking it was connected to the food I ate as well. Now, I didn't know that back then because I don't get migraines anymore. But back then I did. I used to get them, and I got the kind where your vision would, the first time I ever got it, I believe I was in 7th grade. And I was sitting in class one day, and back then I didn't know, they didn't talk about migraine. I had never heard of a migraine before in my life. And I was sitting in class, and all of a sudden one half of the room disappeared. And I was like, ooh, this is freaking me out. I didn't know what was wrong. And then I started developing a bad headache. Now I know, but I didn't understand migraines until I was well into my 30s, I think. Nobody knew that much about them. And I didn't get good medicine for it until my 40s. And then now I'm finally understanding it's probably food related. I've got a lot of allergies to it because food affects everything about your hormonal system, in my opinion. I am not a doctor, but I'm just saying experience has shown me that. So when I started getting migraines, I think it was in the 7th grade. And for some reason, I started thinking about, well, maybe I actually have a brain tumor, because I didn't know. I remember when that happened, I called my sister because she was at home, and I told her to come get me because I was panicking. Like I was panicking. You know, I didn't know why the room disappeared. And and I had been hit in the head with it early on with a baseball bat, and it knocked me out, and I was blind for a while. And I'm like, well, maybe it has to do with that. I don't know. I didn't know anything about migraines. So, of course, in my young adult head, I started getting preoccupied with having a brain tumor. Um, Crazy. But so I didn't, you know what? I was able to fight that off for years. And then for some reason, I also had this thing. I don't know what it was, but I like felt like, I don't know if it was loneliness or what it was, but I had this thing missing, where I felt like I had to have a boyfriend or someone to love me. Like it didn't, who knows why? I don't know. Where I didn't feel loved, and I just knew that if I had a boyfriend, that I would be okay. And so I started. I think I had a boyfriend as early as, oh goodness, I don't know, seventh grade, and then I always had a boyfriend, and then I felt better inside, like I felt loved or something. I mean, that's not the right. I'm just telling you because I think that's why it was. Maybe something I can say can help others. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that strong connection. And so, and I always, the weird thing, the unhealthy thing, is I always chose boyfriends that didn't really like me, that didn't. So I must have been insecure in ways and choosing people that weren't good for me. Gosh, crazy, right? And then I also, always was working on myself. I never thought I was pretty enough or skinnier enough or tan enough. And I was always, maybe I was trying to please something, people. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore. I just know it was real. And so, long story short, I had a boyfriend in 10th grade, and then he graduated. I think we went together a year or two, and it wasn't a healthy relationship. I don't even think he liked me. I was like chasing him. What the heck was, I don't know. Um, and he ended up graduating and moving away, and our town was pretty small. For some reason, that set off this thing in me that I started having a lot of anxiety. I think because I was by myself. Um, so then I started manifesting, oh my gosh, I think I was just concentrating on, I don't know what was going on, but I would just start imagining I've got a brain tumor, and it just like I started getting into it, and I was depressed, and I stopped eating, and I got to a place where I honestly, it was so strange. I was so inside of myself, and I couldn't explain to anyone. I could not explain it, and I wasn't close really to anyone to talk to anyone about it. So kept, it was this internal voice. I mean, I see now just load me with a bunch of crap, but it was real. So I probably lost, I wasn't heavy anyway. I am 5'5". I was probably 120 pounds at the time, and I lost down. I'm sure I was all of 110 because I stopped eating. Had so much anxiety, I couldn't eat anymore, and I was depressed, and I wanted to tell my parents, but I didn't know how. And looking back, it's because I didn't have any faith. I was afraid of death. I was very petrified of it, petrified. And so I thought a few times, you know, I remember looking out a window thinking if I just jumped through it, maybe they'd understand that I needed help. I don't know, I was sleeping a lot. I think I was very depressed. I didn't know how to get help. I didn't know who to talk to or my parents started getting worried, I'm sure, because I was so thin, I wasn't eating. Sort of, I don't know, an anorexic type thing. And so I finally convinced them, and I'm sure they didn't have the money for it, but I did finally convince them. I just felt if I would just go to a doctor and have them examine my brain, at least I would know at that point. So I did convince them. We went, they took me in, hooked me up with all these electrodes, did a brain thing, and I didn't have anything. I was manifesting all of it. And so, but knowing that, I didn't actually now, and this guy was a medical doctor. So, because I think my parents were worried at that point. They didn't know what to do. And I'm sure it cost way too much, but, there were four of us. We weren't poor, but we were mid-level, working. My dad worked really hard. So the doctor told my parents, there's nothing physically wrong with her. She just needs to learn how to have fun. So what I thought, in my young adult mind at that time, I was 17 and, I didn't have a boyfriend there anymore. And what I took from that is you need to start going out partying, maybe start dating someone or something like that. That wasn't the right approach, but it did kind of help pull me out of that very depressed state, because then I knew I was fine. I started moving forward. And so I don't know. I think I'm saying this because if you do have a teenager, I think I really, really needed counseling at that time. I needed some kind of faith. I needed some kind of foundation to strengthen me during that time of my life and to pull me out of whatever I was going through, the depression, whatever you want to say, insecurities as a teenager growing up. I eventually moved to where my boyfriend was, and followed him around, and ended up getting pregnant and married him and divorced him within 4 months. And I mean, it was a really rough time in my life. And I wanted a baby, I thought, well, I have somebody to love. And so and I loved my son. I loved him. So that kind of helped me. But through the years, honestly, I always dealt with anxiety. And it was about death. Maybe you're not like me, but if you don't have some kind of faith or foundation or something, where do we go when we die? That's a scary thing to me. If it isn't, I don't know how you what do you hang on to? Maybe you've had a solid family foundation, and so you don't need to know that. I don't know. But through the years, I became a Christian later on, about 25. And that's when my relationship with my higher power, which is God, started developing. But it wasn't, honestly, I started building my foundation then, but it wasn't until my husband passed away that it got really, really strong. And I was just thinking, how important it is to build a strong foundation when you don't need when everything's going well. When your life is going well, don't wait until a really hard thing happens and all you can do is get up every day and move forward and build a foundation at that point. So don't wait. It's important. If you have a teenager or a younger person and they're struggling and they lose a lot of weight, that's a good indication that something's going on inside there. I mean, there's a lot of signs. Recently here in this city, we did have a young teen take their life. And when I was an EMT, I actually went on a call where a young individual had, young teenager, and it's so devastating. And it always brings me back to where I was at that one point. And so I just wanted, I really thought, I just want to talk about this today because if I can help even one person struggling, one younger person, one person my age, one person any age who's struggling with the same thing, I want to. So anyway, I've got to remember to say subscribe and like and ring the bell, hit the bell. I'm going to be on here. I'm doing a video a day, at least 5 days a week through the week. And I'm going to keep working on foundation work and spirituality and moving forward and goal setting, working on yourself, professional development, so that we do become stronger as individuals. And so that maybe we're in a place like I was at that time of my life and I didn't know how to move forward. Honestly, I had no idea. I was stuck. So that's about all I have today. I think I'm going to get going, but I just wanted to share my story today. So much love to everyone. Be safe going into the weekend and spend as much time as you can with friends and family. It's so important. So very important. My life has changed dramatically in the last 6 years, and I'll tell you, family's everything. Everything. So, okay, you have a fantastic day. Much love.